Here I've got 3 pastel sets and I'm going to show you how I colour match with each set. Here I've got 3 pastel sets. I've got the Unison pastels, I've got the Jaxel pastels and the Koh-i-Noor Gioconda pastels. This is a 72 set and so is the Gioconda. This one, well, they're both student sets. This one has a square profile and they're half sticks, and they're slightly harder than the Koh-i-Noor ones, which are, as you can see, they're a little bit dirty, and it's always a clue that they're softer. They seem to pick up more dirt when they're softer, mainly because the other ones rub against them and cause the pastel to rub off on the other pastels. So it's a really good idea to wash your pastels, or not wash them but wipe them, to clean them off so you can see the true colour, because often you'll get the wrong colour if you do that. So for example, you've got a really light colour here. If it's dirty, you'll think it's a bit darker. That's cleaner now. So we do need to check that before we start doing the colour matching. Now my Unison set I've already pulled out of my box because I'm very familiar with the Unison colours, and these are pastels that I use quite frequently. So I've got my darks here, and I use these darks quite often. I've got dark 5 and dark 4. There, I use those as my dark and mid browns, and I can see that I'm going to need a little bit of dark and mid brown up here, a little bit of green up there as well, we can see, but I'll likely be adding that with pastel pencil. So when I want to start colour matching, I make sure I have a good reference photo, and this is a print on photographic quality paper. When you print something on normal printer paper, it really doesn't print as well and give you such good quality colours and good quality detail. I can see much more detail in this print than I can on one that I've printed on printer paper. I'm going to show you that. This is the one that's on normal printer paper, and I can hardly see any detail in here at all. Everything's a little bit more fuzzy, and the colours all seem to sort of run into each other, and I can't really see what's going on in here in terms of colours. I can just see one colour really, so it's much harder to colour match. If we compare that side by side, you can see that I've lost quite a lot of detail and colour in this one. If you look that here compared to here, very much more detail in there, and I can see lots of different colours compared to here. So once I have my photo reference, I'll get myself a piece of pastel mat, this colour that I'm actually going to use, and colour match by putting the colour that I want to use on the photo reference, thinking, is that the right colour or not? I'm going to test it on the pastel mat. Yeah, that's a good colour match. Sometimes I even test it on the photo if I'm really not sure. So that's my very simple process for checking whether the colours work. So there's a slightly lighter one, and then for some of these lighter colours over here, we're going to go even lighter with a couple of those colours. I may not need both of them, it's just I've got them ready if I need them. So I'll carry on like that with, I've got some black over here obviously. I like to use a Faber-Castell hard stick for black because it doesn't put too much pastel down. And I never want to saturate my paper with black. I always want to lift it with something like another dark. So this is a really good Unison dark blue, dark 22. And then I'm going to need some browns, so I've got my trusty dark 5, which is a very dark brown, and dark 4, which is a bit of a mid brown. So they're always handy. I use them actually probably in most paintings, along with these browns as well. Now, tongue colours. This is a very good tongue colour, red 3, and P5 is a good colour too, very pale pink. And also this one I find really good for skin tones actually. It's a P6. It's you can see some of that in the ear there. So you see how it's just quite simple when you match your photograph with the colours right next to it. Now I've got some other colours going on down here that I might need. So I've got an NE12, which is really useful down there, and then a couple of very pale neutral earth colours and brown earth there. That one's an NE13 and an BE7. You can't really tell the difference in the colour here, but on the paper you can see they're quite different. Then I've got my grass to match, so I've chosen a range of dark and muted greens to match. There we go, and that's a yellow green there. And for the flowers, we've got a sunset yellow and a very bright yellow as well there. Right, so that's how I do it with the Unison set. And I also have pastel pencils. Let's not forget the pastel pencils for details. And I do that in exactly the same way. I find the Carbocello ones, pastel pencils, very useful for grass. They've got some really nice muted greens. And also the Caran-d'Ache ones have got some nice olive greens or khaki greens that are really useful. But if you don't have these, you don't need them. You can get by with just using your Carbocello ones. And then I've got my darker pencils, which are my Old Faithfuls that I pretty much always use in a painting, which is a black, the violet, which is the Payne's Grey from the Carbocello, the darkest blue in the Faber-Castell 157, and the 175 darkest brown in the Faber-Castell. That was a 770 darkest violet. That's the Payne's Grey from the Carbocello set. I've also got a sunset yellow in the Carbocello range 215 and a cream 105 from Carbocello, and these two, which are just lovely, which will give me some nice little flicks on the end here. So I've got 541 Caran-d'Ache and 042 Caran-d'Ache. They are actually flesh colours. So the 042 is called flesh and the 541 is called light flesh 5%. So they're quite good, but if you don't have them, they're not essential. You could use other colours like, for example, the baby pink in the Carbocello range. That would be quite handy, or you could just use this one, the 105 Carbocello, or some of the very light ochre colours in there. That would be quite handy as well. Now, what if you don't have Unisons and you only have a small set of 72? What can you do then? Well, it's exactly the same process. You do have some lights in here, which is very nice for a small set, and you're going to need them. So we've got there's a nice cream, and there's an off cream, which is very handy. Good colour. We've got a lot of red browns in here, which are going to be really handy. Look at that, that's good. That's almost the same colour as the Unisons anyway, so we're going to use that one. We've got, what else have we got here? By the way, I haven't prepared this. I am just going for this cold. This is the first time I've looked at the Jacksaws with this painting. So this is me just doing it as I would if I was doing it afresh. So darkest brown. If you haven't got darker, then you can't go darker. So you just have to work with what you've got. There's the black, so I'm going to put the black over there. I've got dark blue. Now if your blue isn't dark enough, and this blue, it looks dark but it's really not dark enough, you can mix it with the black to make it darker. We need some nice yellow in the grass, and a bit of a bright yellow as well. Maybe there's not exactly the right colour, so I might have to use 3 to get the right colour, or perhaps I need more of a, there we go, more of an orangey yellow, sunset yellow there. And then my greens, now that's really good, nice set of greens here. They are muted khaki or olive colours, which are really handy. Yep, that one as well, that would be nice. And need a bit of a bright green. Oh, we've got loads of greens here, look, we could do that. There we go. So your only problem you're going to have again is finding a really dark green, because that is not as green as the, sorry, it's not as dark as the Unison one. So here's the Unison one. It does look the same, but it's really not as pigmented. So if we put that on here, hopefully it won't prove me wrong. There we go. So we've got the Unison one here and the Jacksaw one here. So even though it looks very similar, it's actually not when you use it. So it's always a good idea to test. Likewise, you might have a trouble with the browns not being dark enough, so let's do that. There's the darkest brown I'm using in Unison, and that is not as dark. It doesn't have to be as dark. Let's try this brown. This might be a bit darker. Yep, that one's a bit darker. So it's always good to test your colours. Remember, colour is a perception rather than a 100% truth, if you like. So one colour can look brighter or darker compared to another, and so you can trick the eyes by just putting a lighter colour next to a dark, and that dark will then look darker. So we've got our dark and our mid brown. What else do we need? We need some, there we go, that's a nice light mid brown there as well. We've got our greens, we've got our yellows, our dark browns, our lights. So yeah, we could quite happily do that with those pastels. We've even got some more, got many more of these red brown colours. Look at that. There we go. So I haven't directly compared the Unison with the Jacksaw. I haven't picked up a Jacksaw, a Unison for example, and gone, right, I'm going to find this colour, because it's highly likely that I won't, and it will just cause me issues and confusion. So you're best off not comparing but doing this kind of thing. So next I'm going to show you the Koh-i-Noor pastel set. So the difference with the Koh-i-Noor set is that they are round pastels, and they're slightly softer. Now when you take the labels off the Koh-i-Noor set, they do leave a kind of residue on the edges, and it's quite annoying, and you have to break through the surface of that sometimes when you're using them. But apart from that, they are pretty good pastels, and I use these with my in my art classes. I've got lots of sets of these. You can see they're quite dirty from the residue of the wrapper that they do have around them. Right, let's start. We've got loads of browns in here. They're quite light though. So I've got a nice red brown there. That might be too red. There we go, that's a good colour. Again, you still have to clean them off, otherwise they are just impossible to see the right colour. Right, maybe I need a bit more of an orangey colour in there. Like that. This is the one. There. No, actually that's too red. I think we'll have to stick with that one. And use this lighter one in here as well. There we go. And then we've got the dark browns. So there's the darkest brown we've got. We'll compare that to our Unison. That's not too bad. That's more of a red brown. Let's see if we've got a darker one. That's lighter. See, it's the light in here. It's very hard to see whether we need to go lighter or darker. So it's a good idea to have a daylight bulb when you're doing this, or doing it by the door or window. So we've got our browns there, and if that's all you have, you just have to go with it. You can intersperse it with some black as well to make it a little bit darker. Now we want to go for some blue over here with our black, so I'm just going to find the darkest blue in there. Again, you're going to have to test. Not very dark. It's always in cheaper student sets, you always have trouble finding really dark colours. Now we need to add some lights in here, and we don't have as many lights in this range as we do in the Unison range, but we do have some flesh tones which we could probably use. Now that's a bit of a peachy colour there, but you could get away with using that. It's a little bit too peach, but it would work. You've got a what's this? It's the same colour. That's a bit of a lighter one, so that would work as well. And we've got a bit of a cream. Now this cream looks too yellow. Yeah, it's too yellowy, that is. That would be good down for that flower. And we'll just get there we go. Oh, look at this. This is a bit of the residue from the wrapper that was on this one, but you can still use the end. So we get a nice gold and a nice bright yellow in there. Again, there we go. So that one's just dirty from pastel dust on there. Those can go in there. We are struggling a bit with colours for the lighter areas, so you'd need to add probably some colour, mixing some colours together. I've got a nice pink for the tongue in there, and got to use a bit of pink and a bit of a red, a dark red, pink and dark red in there to get that ear colour. Possibly even a bit of this. This is a good orangey colour. I can see a bit of that in there. And then you'd need some white to help create this, and you could probably use this colour. Let's see if that, yeah, look at that, that's going to work. That'll be nice. So some of that very pale flesh colour, and that's the sort of more pinky colour. That's all going to work quite nicely. So it does really go to show that you can use other sets, and colour matching like this is really, really useful. And even if you don't get it right, it doesn't matter. You can still change the colours as you go along. Just because you've picked your colours doesn't mean you can't go and pick other colours. But it is a good idea to do this exercise because it really helps you learn what pastel colours you have, and it really helps your colour vision, and it helps you to be better at seeing the colours you need. So each time you do this exercise, you improve your colour vision and you'll get faster at doing it.